Today we're looking at the 5 cameras I liked using most in 2016. Welcome to Film Riot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques, going to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley, and today we aren't looking at the cameras that came out in 2016, just my favorite cameras that I personally used last year. So let's jump in with my first pick and our cheapest, the A7S II. I've had the A7S II for over a year now, and I absolutely love this camera. It's perfect for traveling, and the low light is just insane. It also has fantastic image quality. First, we have the A7S. We're going to start with how the scene looked to my actual eye. Then we work our way all the way up to 409,000 ISO. Yes, 409,000, sweet hell, shocks me every time. Jumping to the A7S II, again, we start from what I was seeing with my eye, then work our way all the way up to the madness that is 409,000, just crazy talk. Of course, I would never go that high. It's pretty unusable at that level, unless you're shooting documentary or news footage. In that case, it's not ideal, but really great to have in case you have no other options. Off the bat, I'm not seeing too much of a difference, but with them side by side, there is definitely a difference here, and it looks like the advantage is going to the A7S II. Not surprisingly, of course, we're getting a bit better of low light here for sure, but I was curious and brought that into After Effects so that I could single out the channels. It looked like the original is actually doing a little bit better noise-wise than the 2. However, again, this comes with the caveat of the A7S II is able to do 4K. So in the end, it would win out. I shot some low light stuff with an A7S II for a project recently that was going to be cutting with Alexa footage, and surprisingly, it's actually hard to tell which is which in the end. But moving on to Film Riot's workhorse, which is the Canon C100 Mark I. I've had this camera for years, and it's the main camera that we still use for Film Riot. Of course, there is the upgrade of the C100 Mark II out now, which we did a review on in 2015. However, I never upgraded to the Mark II, and I've been completely happy with the C100 Mark I, so I think you'd be happy regardless of which one you went with, though the 2 definitely has a much nicer screen and a lot of good upgrades. Long story short, it's giving us a better image with less false color, less moire, and less noise, giving us better low light capabilities. I tested it against my C100, which of course the Mark II is a pre-production version, but side by side, the image on the C100 Mark II seems to be a touch more sharp and seems to be giving me more color, whereas on the original C100, I'm getting more of a wash of warm across the whole image. I'm getting more colors to play with in the Mark II, it seems like. And when I tested the low light against each other, I was definitely getting less and tighter noise in the Mark II than in the original C100. You can also record MP4 in cam now along with AVC HD, both compress the same, so there should be zero change in image quality between them. The big difference is MP4 is a much easier file to work with, but AVC HD has better audio. So for something like Film Riot, I'd probably shoot MP4 for the convenience, but with a short film, I would go with AVC HD for the better audio. Moving on to the one I did a review on recently, the Ursa Mini 4.6K. The Blackmagic Ursa Mini is a filmmaker's camera. Everything about how it's built and what it focuses on lands right in what the filmmaker needs, in my opinion. But let's take a look at this without any color grading, just straight log images. We have a milky, almost Alexa-like quality to the image, which is in part thanks to the dynamic range, which we have 15 stops of impressive dynamic range here. In this shot here, it was a very bright day, and I have Stark and Justin sitting in a shadowed area, but I'm still able to keep good exposure on both of them without losing any detail in the sky. Or this shot here under the bridge. Stark is completely in the shadows, and the tree in the background is getting hit by direct sunlight, but I was able to retain detail in both the background and my actor. And just because I was curious, I decided to take a look at the image of the Ursa Mini compared to my C300 Mark II. This was a well-lit scene. Both cameras had the same lens and were put as close together as possible, and both had their settings set to get the best image possible for each camera. And the Ursa Mini holds up to the C300 incredibly well. There's more noise in the shadow areas with the Ursa, where the C300 is silky smooth, but considering the fact that the C300 is $12,000 and the Ursa Mini is $5,000, that's pretty impressive. The Ursa Mini 4.6K is definitely the best quality that you're gonna get under $10,000 in my opinion, but now we break and then get to my final 2. If you're a budding filmmaker, entrepreneur, innovator, domain.com is a place to go when the next idea hits you. When you buy a domain name for domain.com, you're taking the first steps in creating an identity and a vision for your brand or idea. The world's top 2 premier and most recognized domain extensions are .com and .net, which means those are the ones that are going to help you build your brand and expand your presence online the best. Of course, domain.com is reliable, affordable, and easy to use, and to show you some love, they're giving you 25% off their already affordable prices. When you get domain names, web hosting, and email, just use the coupon code FilmRiot at domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think domain.com. Logo. Next up is another camera I own, the C300 Mark II, which is my second favorite camera to use overall and the best all-in-one camera out there. The image quality and in-camera audio quality are perfect for the higher end work I do, but still let me stay stripped down and run and gun. And it performed extremely well. I had my lens set at f2, which did help, but this camera does really well in low light. Not A7S well, but still pretty great. Best part again is how clean the image is, especially in the shadows. So I'm able to underexpose and go for a very dark look without getting a lot of noise screwing that up. Of course, this is online, so I'm not sure how well that's showing up with that YouTube compression. At first, I was able to stay on the native ISO of 800 in what Ryan Booth calls blue hour, but once the last lights were completely gone, I had to go up to 3200 and 6400 depending. Once you get around 6400 and up, you definitely start to see some noise, but unlike the in-camera footage from the C100, this is tight noise, which looks a lot more like grain and actually gives me sort of a film look. Finally, we have my favorite camera that I used last year and one that you wouldn't buy, but just rent because it's so expensive, the Alexa Mini. But let's take a quick look at a few shots I grabbed with the Alexa Mini and those Lomo lenses. I shot my short films Ghost House and Chainsaw on the Alexa last year. Really loved the look of the images that you get from the camera, all the quality of the Alexa without the extra bits and bobs that can be a hassle when you don't need them. Logo. But that's it, my personal favorite cameras that I used in 2016. As always, this is just my opinion and I'd love to hear yours, so post your favorite cameras in the comments below. And if you do want to check out any of these cameras, you can rent them from LensPro to Go. We have links for that in the notes below, along with a discount coupon code that you can use. And I'll see you guys next week when Danny is still causing trouble for me from beyond the grave.